So your cat is pissing blood.
That's how we like to start the show. Yeah, old Barbara's probably got a UTI, and I
Oh,
can't get her into the vet until Wednesday. So for now, she's just pissing blood everywhere she can. And I'm
okay.
cleaning it up every time I can, but it means that she's not allowed in this office. So she's going to probably start screaming and trying to budge down the door at some point. Just ignore it. She seems happy and fine. She's just peeing everywhere, which she never does, and that pee is also oftentimes red in color, which it normally
Oh,
isn't.
poor
So,
Yeah,
kitty.
it's apparently UTIs are like really common in cats because our cat has been acting kind of weird. Like
Yeah,
she'll run to the other room like right after she pees, and
yeah, she
that's usually a
pees.
sign of like discomfort or
mm,
Yeah,
whatever.
she'll pee and then just bolts. But she's acting
Yeah,
normal. She's acting fine, and she's not peeing anywhere where she shouldn't. And
yeah,
honestly, ever since we moved to this house, she's only peed somewhere where she shouldn't once, and that's because I left some clothes out, and she loves to pee on laundry for
yeah.
whatever reason.
me too. Um, I can
But
hear her right now. She's out there already.
oh no, where's
Yeah, it
Cindy?
was just a preponderance of things. I went out of town this weekend to go to a big convention that I was repping the comic book at, which was a bunch
Nice.
of prep work and stuff. And in that time, my brother came and agreed to stay at my house and watch her so she wouldn't be lonely. But he also wanted to bring his cat here,
Oh no.
so that his cat, I guess, wouldn't be lonely. I don't know. And Barbara does not like his cat or any cat, I imagine, which we didn't really know until it happened because I don't have other cats. I didn't find that out. But
Yeah.
so yeah, I was gone. She was stressed out and pissed from me being gone, and stressed out and pissed from there being another cat in the house. And now she's peeing blood, which was stressing me out all weekend while I was gone, thinking, "Oh God, my cat's dying." I leave for a few
Oh
days, and the cat
no.
dies. And yeah, I got back yesterday late at night, and now it's both summer break and like a federal holiday. And I had a convention all weekend, so I have no idea what day of the week it is right now, which is one of the reasons I thought it was fitting to take a nap when in fact I had to do this show at 3:30. So I apologize.
No,
I
you're
am,
good.
you
You're
know what?
fine.
I've got my Coke. Everybody loves it on a
Hell
Oh
yeah.
yeah.
podcast when the guest has a drink. So let me just lean into the mic and take a sip.
A branded drink. Sponsor us, Coke. Sponsor us. Sponsor us.
Ah, delicious.
Yeah, I actually have a mix of Diet Coke, chai green tea, and some sort of electrolyte drink in my water bottle currently because I'm just some sort of goblin that likes to mix liquids.
She does
That's
that.
that's horrible.
That's what I thought. I'm
I
like,
like it.
I mean, whenever I was a little kid, I was always the one that would like always like make like the gourmet suicides, whenever
Yeah.
you put your drink on the different fountains, and so like you want just a dash of Surge and then some Sprite, and then after that you top it off with just a little bit of Dr. Pepper, just give it a little bit of zazz.
Tiny bit.
And then you got like, a cool beverage. But I would make lots of different beverages like that. But I don't know, man. I kind of grew out of it. All the sugar started like really just making me just kind of like turn
I'm
into the great cornholio.
I'm one of those maniacs that will mix Coke and orange juice. So and I think it's good. I like it.
What have I gotten myself into? The problem with mixing all the drinks, especially if you go down the line at the fountain, is that you could put one drop of root beer at the bottom of the Pacific Ocean and it would taste like root beer from here to Japan.
That's
Mhm.
true.
It's ridiculous. It's so
Yeah.
strong and so gross if you're me. I think root beer is the devil's drink. But yeah, I
I
don't know.
love
I like it pure, people. Keep it simple. This is not Diet Coke. It's not Coke Zero. People hand me a Coke Zero. They're like, it tastes just like Coke. And I drink it and I think, well, you know what, man? I must like the taste of the calories because it tastes like shit. Okay. I don't know what the zero is that's making it taste so bad, but it's not the same. Same thing. I don't drink, and a lot of people will hand you drinks and be like, taste it. You can't taste the alcohol. I'm like, no, you can't taste the alcohol. You fucking drunk. I can taste it. Okay. And it doesn't taste good. I'm a baby. I'm a baby and I like sweet things.
No, I could always taste the alcohol. Like whenever I was a
Yeah.
little kid, like because my parents, would like we would go to Sonic's or we would go. There was a place called Ranch Burger in Pawnee, Oklahoma, and they would get the big fountain drinks, and then they pour a little Crown or a little Jim Beam in there or whatever. But like I didn't know there was anything in there. Apparently there was a soda a long time ago called Team, like TEEM, and so I took a drink of of my mom's drink that had like some sort of whiskey in it, and like because I was little, I was like, oh, it's pop, you know, let's drink some soda. And I took a drink, I was like, oh my god, this is gross. And then my mom said, oh, that's Team. And so like the entire time, I was always convinced that the soft drink Team just tasted like absolute shit until like I was like in my 30s when I realized that I took a drink of my mom's mixed drink, and I was like, oh, well now I have no idea what Team really tasted like.
Yeah. Sometimes when I drink like regular cola, it tastes like whiskey to me.
Oh, I was about to say.
That might be because that's my go-to drink whenever I go out is like a whiskey cola.
So
and I'll order it just like that too. I won't say like Jack and Coke or anything like that. It's like double whiskey cola, please. And you know what I'm talking about.
You always get the doubles, and that's the funny thing is like, you know, you drink the Coke.
The singles aren't enough anymore.
But you take a drink of just a regular Coke at a restaurant, and you're immediately expecting like the stinging woody zazz of
I have
frickin'
like
whiskey.
the phantom whiskey taste in my mouth. And then it makes me crave whiskey. So maybe I'm just an alcoholic.
God, but I just I drink tea. If I go to a restaurant, it's half and half tea, half sweet tea, half unsweet tea, because I just can't do the cloyingly sweet. But then, you know, sometimes the artificial sweeteners just taste too much like, I don't know.
Yeah.
Little sugar, not a whole.
Here in Texas, I've noticed it's like 3 parts sugar to like 1/4 part tea, and then some other magical Texan ingredients that they put in there.
That's just the South, though. I mean, it's always syrupy sweet. I imagined it like Alabama, Mississippi's very similar sweetness.
I grew up in Mississippi, and I don't remember it being this sweet.
But whenever
There's something about Texas tea.
But when you're a kid,
they're trying to make it as close to actual, like, crude oil as possible.
With as much sugar as possible.
Yeah, it's got to be as viscous as the shit that comes out of the ground.
They do have a reputation down there. My friend, one of my good friends' moms is from Texas, and she always loves her some sweet tea.
Sweet.
And it is fucking foul. It is non-sweet. I don't know what. Look, tea by itself, for me, hit and miss. Okay, I'll take it. I'll drink it. I won't seek it out. But to do that to that drink that already needed so much help to kick it while it was down in that way is regrettable.
No, the best way, this is how we used to do it
Noah's
back home.
spilling the tea now.
Silver rock, silver rock, silver rock, silver rock. Silver rock, silver rock, silver rock, silver rock. Silver rock, silver rock, silver rock, silver rock. Silver rock, silver rock, silver rock, silver rock.
My name is Matt, and after I die, I want to be interred into a Sith tomb where you have to solve all these puzzles to unlock all of my belongings. Like, you know, oh, I solved this puzzle and the wall opens and there's Matt's base. But on top of the tomb, I want there to be like a playground or like a park or something. So there's going to be like a haunted tomb. And then, like, you know, my ghost could just kind of like wander around and
Like
just kind
haunt
of.
the playground.
Yeah, so if some kid falls off the monkey bars, you just hear like a disembodied ha ha.
Lure children to the dark side.
Yeah. It's like, good, unleash your anger. Bully him for his lunch money.
Okay, well, my name is Sabrina, and when I die, I want a bounce house at my funeral. Instead of a coffin, just chuck my corpse in there, and then all of the funeral goers will have to go in there and bounce around with my corpse. And
So popcorn you around a bit.
yeah, see how high you can make my dead body bounce.
I'm gonna try for the highest. And I'm
appreciate
Noah.
that.
And when I die, I'm going to make my brother lazily toss my body into a ravine or chasm of some kind in order to give closure to my friends and family.
And
This is Sumo Punks. We're starting this day out morbid because we can.
Yeah.
Because I just woke up from a nap, and every time I take a nap in the middle of the day, I feel like I've been thrown outside of time. Sort of like my soul is 3 inches to the left of my body. It is not a good experience, and yet I continue to succumb to the temptations of the nap, which are, of course, oh so calming and nice. And then I fall for it every time, and it's never good.
A nap does sound nice.
I haven't got a lot of sleep over the last few days myself. We've been really busy.
We have. It's been insane for the last, like, I don't know how many weeks. Like, the last 2 weeks have just been absolutely just bonkers. We had John Jax, show up, and we had to do, we were able to do a Keiko with John Jax, which was pretty fucking amazing.
We were delighted to have a Keiko.
I thought it was
John
awesome.
Jax.
It was badass, and we all learned so much, and I think some of the guys on the Kurawashi team have, like, significantly leveled up.
Yes. So he's completed his Texas tour. I kind of want to reach out to him and see if he wants to come on the show and kind of reflect about that.
That'd be cool.
That would be cool. But while he was here, you also did your first 2 belt tests.
I did. I got my first 2 belt tests. It was with Caleb Backus and Tom Zabel and John Jax. All at the same time. So 3, very highly ranked members of the
prominent members
of the
US
Sumo Federation. I
Tell
was
me-
nervous.
Tell me about how that works, because that's one of those things that exists in U.S. amateur sumo, and it has no analog in Ozumo. I don't know if it has an analog in other amateur sumo, but I really don't know anything about it. So what did you have to do?
They use it in
and like, what do you have to
Japanese.
know to get different, I guess, belt colors? Is it like that?
Yes,
I don't know.
yes. So it is. It's an analog that is present in Japanese Amazumo, but not in Ozumo. And whenever you see like the college Japanese, sumo wrestlers, you'll see like a colored stripe. Sometimes it's red, sometimes it's black. Especially if we're looking at the more advanced, wrestlers, the ones that are probably going to go pro. But they'll have a little red stripe, a black stripe, on their mawashi, and that's their belt rank. Some of the like if you watch the Sumo World Championships, sometimes you'll see other, wrestlers from around the world will have like a green or a blue,
Yeah.
But it's all educational. There are some instances, where you would have to physically demonstrate something to show how you comprehended, but it's not that bad. You do have to know, because I did yellow and orange at the same time, like I took both tests at the same time, and you do have to know the inadvertent losses, like the isimiyashi or the fumadashi. What's the other one where you land on your knee? Is it a koshikaduke? Koshikoduke?
Koshikudake.
That's it. Thank you. I appreciate it.
I didn't do any belt tests. I don't know.
Yeah, so you have to know kind of like the inadvertent losses. You have to know, basic techniques, and you have to know the basic exercise movements and the significance behind the exercise movements. A lot of what's on the test can be found in the Tom Zabel Sumo Skills book, but it's some of the more comprehensive stuff that they're asking you isn't necessarily found in the book. It's kind of stuff you have to think about and stuff that you learn, through experience. But they really do want to know that you understand, the movement. So the yellow and orange was fairly easy, but the ones that I really kind of screwed up on, because I didn't have a chance to really like sit down and study because we were just so busy. But the inadvertent losses, were the ones that I kind of struggled with. I knew like 2 out of the, was it 5 or 6 of them?
Yeah.
Yeah, I just knew,
I think you only needed to know like 4 out of those, though, right?
Yeah, a couple of them, like I was like, man, if you say it in Japanese, I would know. But they told me in English, and I had to tell them the Japanese term, and that's where I was like, oh man. But it was really cool, and I'm really glad that I passed. And
Are there like Imarite like demonstration requirements?
a couple of them, like, what's the difference between Yorikiri, Yori Taoshi, or Oshidashi, Oshitaoshi, that kind of thing.
But they don't make you belt up and do a thing?
No, you don't have to. I mean, I kind of demonstrate because I wasn't wearing my belt and Caleb wasn't wearing his belt, but I kind of, just used him as a visual aid a little bit.
Yeah, I
but,
do remember that.
But we weren't actually having to formally demonstrate the moves, just kind of like a quick, just like, oh, it's like Oshidashi, you thrust and he's out. And then, Yorikiri, you have a hold of the belt while they're out, that kind of thing. But it wasn't like full-blown demo or anything.
Yeah, I was able to take a look at some of the more advanced tests and saw that there is a lot more like Kimarite demonstration involved with those.
There's a lot more Kimarite, and there's a lot more esoteric Kimarite, and then the comprehension, I'm sure, is going to be a little bit more advanced the more you work the way up the ranks.
Yeah.
But
we're proud of you.
thank you.
Yeah, congrats.
Thank you. Oh, one thing though, you do have to participate in a tournament or some sort of sanctioned event every 6 months.
Oh dear.
You don't necessarily have to compete. You could be like tournament support, or just show up there and start strapping wawashis on people.
Yeah, as long as
Just
you're
support
like
it in some way.
contributing.
Yeah.
Right.
And so I think it's going to be really cool because right now the only 3 people that I'm personally aware of that can give belt tests are Caleb, Tom Zabel, and
Packy
Banavins. I don't know if John could give the belt test. No, John's a black belt, right? I think John Jax is a black belt. So I think John Jax, so there's 4 in the United States that could give the belt tests.
Yeah.
But
I
Packy
feel like
Banavins
we're
for sure.
forgetting one other one.
Oh, there's
but
other black belts, but those are the only ones that I know of that give
do the
belt
tests.
tests.
Oh, okay.
But I really want to continue on through the educational thing so I could start giving the tests myself. I think the more people that can give these tests, then I think the more the martial arts world at large, will start kind of having a little bit more respect for sumo. Right now, as it is, since there's not so many people to take do the belt test, there's not very many people taking the belt tests. And in sumo, we all kind of have like a more of a community learning model than we do like actual hierarchical masters passing down knowledge like that. So it's a different culture, it's a different environment. But especially since Ozumo doesn't have any type of rankings, educational rankings like that. So it's a bit of a different creature, and it's not mandatory. You don't have to do it. In fact, there's a lot of really good sumo tori that haven't done it yet, or some really good sumo tori that are still kind of at lower ranks. But I think in the long run, it's going to be really beneficial. And I'm kind of jealous whenever we go to the dojo and I see, the Iaido credentials and the Uichiru karate, credentials. And I'm like, man, I want credentials. So
I'm gonna put something up on the wall.
once I get my orange belt certificate, I'm just gonna just duct tape it. Not really.
Duct tape it up onto the wall next to which one of the
Like the 7th Dan.
Which one was it that the guy was telling us is like the national head honcho of?
Oh, Sensei Jack
Yeah.
is the head honcho of the North American Iaido organization.
Yeah, and he practices out of our dojo.
Wow.
And I'm like, I'm an orange belt.
Yeah. So just duct tape it right up next to his. But we do have something we need to get through before we start talking about the actual basho, which is the main focus of this episode. It's the reason we brought Noah back to discuss the basho with us, because if you listen to the previous episode where we go over the Banzuke, we made Noah make some predictions about this basho.
And we're
I don't
very
even
excited.
remember what they were.
It's fine. I've got them all written down.
Oh,
and this
boy.
basho has gone completely fucking sideways, so this ought to be interesting. But first, let's let Matt go through the upcoming events.
On June 1st, the U.S. Sumo Nationals in San Diego.
Yeah.
This is going to be at the Lincoln High School gym, hosted by the illustrious Hono Sumo. Yeah. Weigh-ins are on Thursday from noon to 2 p.m. local time, and Friday from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m., and then again from 5 p.m. to 7 p.m., and that's before the tournament. The actual tournament itself starts on Saturday at 9 a.m. Pacific time. Bonus! From 10 a.m. to 12:30 p.m., there's going to be a John Jack Sumo workshop at Ocean Beach, San Diego, California. That's going to be at the corner of Abbott Street and Newport. That's going to be from, 10 a.m. to 12:30. But then right after, at 1 p.m. to 4, there's going to be barbecue at the beach.
Yeah.
And so, go train with John Jax. Go have some barbecue. It's going to be badass. We trained with John Jax during his Texas tour. Amazing stuff.
We tried to go have barbecue, but the barbecue place was closed.
So we had to go watch a basketball game at like the bar, and that was actually kind of fun. All right. Also, June 1st are the South American Sumo Championships in Buenos Aires, Argentina. June 8th, the Milano Open in Italy. And then June 22nd, the Riverfront Sumo Open. This is a 3-day event. It's part of JFAX. So June 21st is a training camp. June 22nd is tournament day. And then June 23rd is a post-tournament training camp. This is hosted by Grand Rapids Sumo Club in Grand Rapids, Michigan at the DeVos Place Convention Center. June 22nd, that whole weekend. So head your ass to Michigan. And then we have June 21st through the 23rd, the European Sumo Championships. That is U18 and U15. And I'm guessing this just means under 18 and under 15. I could be wrong. But yeah, it says U18, U15, and that's in Kwidzyn, Poland. And August 3rd and 4th, the Scottish Sumo Open in Glasgow, Scotland. Scott Finley's doing it again, making it bigger and better than before. And then October 11th through October 12th, Sumo Dan's Olympia Sumo Championship in Las Vegas at the Las Vegas Convention Center, 3150 Paradise Road. Women's divisions are on October 11th. Men's divisions are on October 12th. Registration's $52.50. And if you do open weight in the men's division, prepare to go traditional. No shorts allowed for the men's open weight.
Nice. What about the women's open weight?
I mean, they're allowed to wear their singlet. You know, there's you could wear singlet with your team colors or just a plain monotone singlet.
One of these days, I promise you, I will get in that ring completely traditional. I'm going to do it. Somebody's going to supari me in the tit and I'm going to cry, but I'm going to do it.
Remember Sumo Do, Sumo Don't, the 90s movie? Mm-hmm. Whenever at the very end, whenever she gets in there traditional, but she's wearing that...
She was wearing the bandages to cover her...
With the shoulder brace. But yeah, she got in there. It's like you could do the shoulder brace or the bandages, you know.
Nah, I'm just going tits out.
All right.
Yeah.
Aoyama does.
I was about to say, you'll be in good company with Big Dan.
Hell yeah. So going into the Basho, Natsu 2024. We do have a couple of news items here as we're getting into the Natsu Basho. First, apologies for not releasing a week 1 episode. Like we mentioned earlier, we've been exceedingly busy lately, so we kind of just decided to do the whole Basho in this episode. So yeah, apologies if we don't go over as much detail as we otherwise would. But one of the things that I did want to mention is that Kotoeko has now decided to retire after 17 years as a professional rikishi.
I'm gonna miss him.
We wish him all the best.
He's my little muscle man.
He has plans to take on the Oguruma elder name. Oguruma was the name recently held by former Ozeki Kotokaze, who had also recently made comments in Hochi Sports, I think it was, about how he feels the rules around withdrawing due to injury should be eased a bit to avoid situations like what we saw during this tournament.
Yeah.
Especially for the Sanyaku ranks. But I just happened across that little news item and thought it was an interesting connection to Kotoeko and, some interesting commentary on a very huge part of this Basho, because we did have so many people drop out due to injury. A lot of them were the highest ranked people there. Yeah. Another news item that happened during this Basho is Chiyoshima somehow hinked his way into Japanese citizenship.
Like how he hinked into citizenship.
This is a good sign that he's also going to try to gain some elder status.
Yeah.
So
good luck getting that Kabu. He's going to be raising up the next generation of Hinka artists.
Hell yeah. So we're just going to jump right into the notes we have for day 1. First is absences. Takara Fuji, the Yujo winner from the last tournament in March, had dropped out of the Natsubasho entirely. The ankle injury he sustained last tournament while fighting the other guy who dropped out on day one, Asanoyama, still needs a bit more time to heal before he can get back to kicking ass. Takara Fuji is currently Maegashira 6, so we expect him to still very much be in Makuuchi once he returns in July. But speaking of Asanoyama, he also did decide to sit this one out due to a knee injury he sustained during the spring Jungyo tour. And he had finally made it back to Sanyaku, too, at Komusubi East. The poor guy just can't catch a break.
God, I know.
Speaking of Sanyaku, our top guys had a rough-ass time on day one. The only Sanyaku-ranked Rikishi who got any wins on the first day of the Basho was Ono Sato, who is enjoying his first taste of Sanyaku at Komusubi West. First notable bout we had for day one was Takakeisho versus Hirata Umi. Hirata Umi, whom I am growing to love more and more every day, also in Maegashira 2. Also very impressive how he was able to dominate Takakeisho out of the ring.
I love his style. He's explosive and he just puts his entire body into it. He's just like, "Argh!"
Yeah, he's a smaller guy who does big guy sumo. And I like to see that. It's more like he does a combination of big guy sumo and small guy sumo. Because he has the speed, he has that little like wiliness that the smaller dudes do, but then he has like the strength and explosiveness too.
I love that explosiveness.
Yeah.
I think good for him, but for me as a Takakeisho fan, that first day win was more of a Takakeisho loss than it was a Hirata Umi win. I feel like if what we see with Takakeisho lately as his neck's gotten worse is that if he stays in a tournament, he seems to start more tentatively, where he'll kind of begin the tournament with his more reactive and defensive sumo, and he'll hit standing more up to avoid his neck. And then I think as he gets over the initial kind of fear, he'll usually midway through, if he's really feeling okay, start to hit with his head again. And I think in any normal circumstance, Takakeisho would typically have zero problems with a guy Hirata Umi's size and style. Yeah. He only has problems with guys that size if they are like Tobizaru and their whole plan is to bait out a slapdown. But because Takakeisho's attack, was, a few years ago, so freakishly strong, people who don't weigh a lot really just get sort of floored by him. Yeah. Look at what he does to Ura. And Ura weighs a fair amount. Ura's like 320 or something. He's heavy for his size. But they tend not to be able to hang. And I think it's only because we saw Takakeisho drop out immediately afterward because his neck must have been in especially bad shape that he had like no offense. I don't know that, I don't know how much of this tournament, some of it I think was a sign that Hirata Umi is improving. But I also am not too willing to read a ton into it just yet. I like Hirata Umi and I like his aggression and I like that he's very physically strong despite being small. But
if it would have been peak and his, if he was tip top shape, Takakeisho, then no, I could definitely see Hirata Umi just getting blasted out.
But, I completely agree. Takakeisho did end up pulling out the next day, so he's definitely not at his best. Moving on to the next notable bout for day one, Hoshoryu versus Atami Fuji. Haas tries 3 different times to go for a throw, but Atami Fuji is able to resist every time. He starts humping Hoshoryu toward the edge, and as Haas pivots for one last attempt at a big throw, Atami Fuji takes advantage of his awkward stance and tosses the Ozeki out.
Man, the way that Hoshoryu got, just kind of like pushed down right there at the edge, whatever he was trying to do that throw, that happens to me all the freaking time. Because like Hayden did that to me, and then freaking Jared Parham did that to me. And it's always when I'm trying to execute that style of throw, whenever I'm like not squared up and at a weird angle.
You start doing different stuff at the edge.
That's exactly what I was about to say. I just need to get at a better angle. But I was proud of my boy. I was proud of my boy for recognizing that throw attempt to be like, nope, and just tossed him down.
Hell yeah.
Well, that was huge for me because what we have seen is that there's sort of a class of guys that are up at the top of the upper ranks of Makuuchi right now that are just like pure sort of strongman belt sumo guys. Atami Fuji is the newest one, but he's in the same place as Asano Yama and to a certain extent Koto Zakura, though I feel like Koto Zakura has a bigger bag of tricks to some extent. And what has been the most frustrating as a person who roots for that type of wrestler a lot is that for many of them, for Koto Zakura, for like how many? It was like 10 in a row almost against Hoshoryu. For Asano Yama still to now, for Onosato still to now. We've had to watch them take what feels like forever to realize that Hoshoryu wants to do something. He wants to get an inside grip if he can get it, or any grip if he'll take it, and use his legs and your momentum that you generate because you're huge and overconfident and flip you up and throw you. He's beaten all of those guys like that many, many times. And it was very reassuring to see Atami Fuji actually catch on quickly because Onosato clearly didn't catch on. He lost in the exact same way. Asano Yama has yet to catch on, and he's been freaking fighting this guy enough. Koto Zakura caught on a little bit ago, and he's won the last, 4 or 5 of their fights straight. Because when you're in that situation where you're a big guy and they have an angle and just are waiting on you to generate momentum, you need to slow down and be ready to hop with their throws and keep in front of them. And it's something that we see so frustratingly not often these days. Whereas if you look back in the day, there were lots of long battles between Chonofuji and Onokuni, where Onokuni is just hopping around with the throw back and forth. He didn't often win because it's still Chonofuji, but he wouldn't just get rolled at the first attempt, Yeah. I mean, even when Hokutenyu, have you seen those fights, Hokutenyu beating Konishiki, where he fucking gets an inside grip and literally 360s him? I mean, even then he had to wait for Konishiki to really, really drive before Konishiki was going to fall for something like that. And it's driven me crazy to watch all these big guys losing the same way to Hoshoryu, like they're not paying attention. So when Atami Fuji did that on day one, I was like, yo, this guy is paying attention. He's thinking, or maybe Isegahama is paying attention and telling him what to do. But either way, it was refreshing to see. And I was sad Onosato didn't learn from that match later on in the tournament, but it's also only his second time fighting Hoshoryu, so we'll give him a little slack.
Yeah, but no, I was proud of my boy, and honestly, it almost kind of seems like Haas. I mean, for being one of the only healthy Ozeki at the moment, you could tell he was feeling some pressure.
Yeah. Last notable bout I have for day one was Teruno Fuji versus Onosato. The new Komusubi Onosato, with his teeny tiny little chonmage, blocks Teru's attempt to grab his belt off the Tachiai and just starts humping with all of his might. Teruno Fuji locks up his arms and wraps his leg around Onosato's, attempting a Kotenage. But Onosato counters by grabbing the Yokozuna's leg to tip him over for a Sukuinage win.
That was cool to see. And if you watch it closely, if I remember correctly, it's been a couple weeks now, but obviously there were a few factors at play here. I mean, obviously Teruno Fuji is breaking down, right?
Yeah.
He doesn't have the same strength and ability that he has had in the past. And that probably affected his confidence. Because typically in the past, Teruno Fuji as a Yokozuna has learned to sort of square up with people to stop the flow of the match. Because in general, it's been true that if he can get his hands on anybody, he can win.
He likes to lock up their arms.
Yeah, he's had a weird history lately, or I guess in the last couple of years, of giving away double insides on accident and then sort of using the kimedashi, which is a pretty nasty double armbar to lift people out or force people out. And the thing about a double inside is that it's an extremely, extremely advantageous position unless your opponent is significantly taller and stronger than you. That's why historically you see it from guys like Takamiyama used to do it a lot because he was the tallest and heaviest dude of his era. Musashi Maru would do it a lot because he was humongous. Teruno Fuji does it a lot. He's humongous. Mm-hmm. And so it works against guys like Ura and Daisho who are shorter and who are not as big. But he actually gave up a double inside to Onosato. Onosato got the right inside immediately and then kept his arm tucked and fought him for the left inside until he got that. And it's at that point, I think, that Teruno Fuji panicked because he knew that with his current power and the fact that Onosato is bigger than he is, which is very rare, and perfectly strong enough, he knew that he couldn't probably resist in that way. So instead, he went for a desperate move, which he had to do, I think, last time to beat Onosato as well. And Onosato was ready for it this time, which I was very impressed by and very proud of. And he moved with the throw, caught himself, and finished it off. So I feel like these young people are learning well and learning quickly things that are like fundamentally important in sumo that maybe we haven't seen as much lately, which is really, really positive.
Hell yeah. This was actually the first time since the Showa era that all the Ozeki and the Yokozuna had lost on the first day of the tournament.
Oh my god!
Wow.
So these
and it's not like we didn't have very many. We had fucking 4 of them, 4 Ozeki and 1 Yokozuna. So that's crazy.
Going into day 2 now, we see some other significant absences. As mentioned before, Terunofuji decided to drop out, citing injury, of course. Takakeisho also dropped out on day 2. Not much interesting as far as actual bouts for this day. So we're just going to go right into day 3, where we have some more absences. Takayasu dropped out.
What a guy.
So, yeah. He does end up coming back, though. But he dropped out on day 3, citing a flare-up of an old back injury. But the first bout that we have that's notable from day 3 was Atamifuji versus Kirishima. After being unable to obtain a belt grip, Kirishima goes for a feeble slapdown, but gets himself turned completely around, allowing Atamifuji to absolutely destroy him, sending him tumbling off the dohyo. A very rookie move by the Ozeki.
For real. Kirishima didn't just look hurt, he looked bad. I didn't really understand it. It wasn't just that, I can't fight because my neck hurts. It was like, I'm making decisions that don't make any sense, and I'm panicking in situations when I should know better, even if my neck is not even at play here. There were times where I was like, he doesn't just look like not an Ozeki, he looks like not a Sekitori. I don't know what the hell's going on, which is so strange because 4 or 5 months ago, he was the closest man to Yokozuna, which is just odd. I don't know. Even to now, I don't really understand the full extent, I think, of what's going on with Kirishima. It's got to be more than just he's hurt. It's got to be some combination of things, because there's no good explanation for his last 2 performances.
I think it's
maybe moving stables.
Part of it's probably that. Part of it's also he's still trying to figure out what he can do with the injuries he's sustained. That might also be part of it. But that was actually the only notable bout we had for day 3, as disappointing as it was for Kirishima. Going into day 4, we have Daieisho versus Kirishima. Kirishima thrusts with all of his might, but Daieisho then charges into him. Kirishima sidesteps, expecting Daieisho to run out. But he stops at the edge while Kirishima just kind of stands there and looks at him. You can see Kirishima go, oh fuck, as he scrambles to get back in the fight. But Daieisho was able to absorb Kirishima's assault and Oshidashi the Ozeki out of the ring in the exact same spot he had almost gone out moments before.
Oh no.
Yeah, when people lose to opponents that they always beat, that's always a bad sign. And this was one of those where I was like, oh boy. Because Kirishima's really beaten Daieisho often and in important moments in the last year. And usually the same way, by sort of juking him at the edge. And here it didn't work, and Kirishima wasn't even on enough to go finish the job. Again, that was a rookie move, right? Just letting your opponent walk out, thinking that they've walked out and not reacting fast enough to make sure they're gone. And then to turn around and lose the match from there, it was like, oh my God, what is going on? Free fall.
Next notable bout from day 4, we have Hiraumi versus Hoshoryu. They immediately start grappling off the Tachiai. Hoshoryu goes for a throw, but Hiraumi resists. He then tries for another throw, but Hiraumi still resists. Haas then smashes poor Shonosuke Kyoji's toes before trying for another throw. But this time, when Hiraumi still refuses to topple over, Hoshoryu just starts shoving Hiraumi, which results in Hiraumi's foot tripping over the Gyoji, who goes tumbling to the clay. As the Gyoji rolls around in the dirt, Hiradoumi desperately tries to push Hoshoryu back, but Haas is finally able to push Hiradoumi down and out of the ring, while the Gyoji barely is able to roll out of the way before getting crushed, although Haas did step all over his nice robes.
I worry for those little old men.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a dangerous job.
I'm assuming they get a lot of training about how to stay the fuck out of the way of these charging bulls of Rikishi.
Well, they do, because like a lot of them are
Yeah.
like 16, you know, whenever they're like Jonokuchi Gyoji.
Yeah, no, the lower divisions have, like, much younger ones, so once you get up to Makauchi, you've had some years and years
To know how to get the hell out the way.
Yeah, it was
But they
just-
also have this weird, like, this precedent of picking the smallest Japanese man they can find to be Gyoji. I mean, obviously the sumo wrestlers make them look big, but if you know how tall most of the sumo wrestlers are in real life, a lot of them are about 6 feet tall. Tall by Japanese standards, you know, shorter than me and Matt. And so the Gyoji, especially in the past, are like, I swear to God, some of them are probably fully 4'11", like Danny DeVito's running around in this ring. And I don't know why. Like, you'd think they'd want kind of beefier, tougher dudes. Maybe it's just so they're agile and they can get those low angles. But gosh.
Now all I'm imagining is Danny DeVito as a Goji, and he's like, Nokota, Nokota.
So anyway, I started Nokota. I don't know. Stupid.
So anyway, I started Hakioing.
Can I offer you a Goombay in this trying time? Oh, boy.
Holy shit. You're right, though. I think they pick people like that are really shorter stature as Gyojis to make the Rikishi look bigger, though. I think there might be something there. Okay, one thing I wanted to ask real quick. Shonosuke Gyoji. Is that the right way to say that?
It would be Shonosuke. With Japanese, if
That's
the U
right,
is not a long
Shonosuke.
vowel or at the beginning, it's barely pronounced.
But
it's
is
the reason.
it correct to put the Shonosuke in front of Gyoji?
Like to use
Oh,
Gyoji
that-
as honorific?
I don't know that I've heard it that way, but I don't know that it would make too much of a difference.
I guess I could have just said the Gyoji Shonosuke.
Yeah.
Okay, well,
Yeah.
I'll fix it in post. We're going to go ahead and go into day 5 now. Takanosho versus Tamawashi. This one was pretty funny, actually. Tamawashi just starts choking the bejesus out of Takanosho, pushes him all the way back to the edge of the ring by his neck. Takanosho resists as hard as he can. Tamawashi stands him up, still gripping his throat, and Takanosho just jumps to the side and lets Tamawashi fly out of the ring by his own momentum, giving Takanosho his first win of the tournament. And this is why I have now dubbed Takanosho the Throat Goat.
Wait, that's Tamawashi's the throat goat.
Well, no, because Takanosho was able to withstand the...
Oh, so I guess that does make him the throat goat. then.
Exactly.
And
I think people who are dubbed the throat goat are usually dubbed that because of their ability to, let's say, withstand a lot of punishment to the throat in some way.
Exactly.
all right, that's
He's the Nancy Reagan of sumo.
okay, that tracks.
Maybe Nancy Reagan is the Takanosho of politics.
That's too nice. That's too kind.
Then we're just going to go right into day 6. Going into day 6, we had 3 unlikely leaders. Mitakeumi, Takara Fuji, and Ura. We're going to start with...
Oh, can I do this one?
Oh, yeah, you want to do this one?
Yeah. Okay. So day 6, first notable bout we had was Mitakeumi versus Ura. So Mitakeumi and Ura clashed at the Tachiai, almost looking like they were getting ready to do Butsukari, with Ura taking on the receiving stance. Mitakeumi used the strength of his entire being to push the Pinky Cheeseburger Boy to the Tawara. As soon as Ura's foot touched the Tawara, he did a Totari armbar to maneuver Mitakeumi into position for a belt grip and used the Rikishi's own momentum and strength to throw him out for an Owata Dashinage win. And
If only he had done as well for the rest of the tournament.
I know.
People need to calm down with their hype trains sometimes. I know people love Ura because he has like one match per tournament that's like clippable, and he wears pink and he's a happy guy. But like, even if Ura goes 6-0 from the start or whatever, that no one should think that he's going to win the Yusho at any point. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
He just, him being where he is a miracle, and I'm happy to have him there. But there's no reason we should ever expect him to do that well for that long, because he just doesn't have that in him. There are guys that just can deal with Ura. He has only certain situations. He's good at manipulating situations into a win. But if he is denied those situations, then he has a hard time. And there are lots of guys that understand that. I mean, when Mitake Yumi was just standing there applying pressure, I was like, Ura's a guy who likes it when you apply pressure because he needs you to like give him some force so that he can work with it. If you just force him to have to use his own power, he doesn't win like that very often. And so the dodge out of the way and the arm pull and stuff, I was like, yeah, that was going to happen. I mean, and it did. But he got to a point in the tournament where he just couldn't find those things anymore. And it went downhill from there, as it often does. So
very true.
Yeah.
Hell, he was like, I think he was a couple tournaments ago, he was in his hometown maybe, and he was like really close to a Kachikoshi. And then it got denied him because of a mono E for something. It might have been a hair pull. I don't remember. But there was like a really sort of upsetting mono E where Ura lost. And then I don't even know if he got his Kachikoshi from there. Like he just sort of lost out from there. And that to me is kind of, I don't want to say the story of Ura, but like that's a very Ura type of, thing to have happen. It's always going to be a Kachikoshi struggle for Ura. And I don't think it'll ever be much more than that. And that's okay. Because when you're built like he is, and you've had the injury history that he has, the fact that he's performing at the level that he is incredible.
Yes.
Like he had the same injury I think that Teruno Fuji had, but with a much, much, much less impressive physical frame. And he has come back up from the same depths and is performing incredibly well for being a short guy. Like he's awesome. It's just he's not a title winner.
And I hate to admit that you're right, but I've kind of felt the same way.
There's always going to be rank and filers, okay? Yeah. It's just most of them are so fucking forgettable. It's nice to have one that's actually entertaining.
And I am a huge Ura fan, but no, I do understand that he's probably, not going to be a Yokozuna, or.
Yeah. Only in the fanfic.
Yeah. He's the Yokozuna of my heart. Oh, and I didn't really take a whole lot of notes on this bout in particular, but it did look like Wakamoto Haru may have gotten injured after being thrust down by the mighty Daisho. So, that was
I don't even remember that one.
Oh,
was that before he dropped out for a day? Or?
I think that was the one right before he dropped out.
Okay. Yeah, I guess he hurt his toe, which is really hard to do sumo with a beat up toe.
That is very true.
Understandable. And he went away for a little bit, and then he came back and did not amazing after he came back. He's no Takayasu.
And then the other notable bout we had for day 6, Ono Sato versus Koto Sakura. Just some really fundamentally good sumo from Ono Sato here. Koto Sakura goes for a throw, but Ono Sato firmly plants himself low and drives the Ozeki sideways and out of the ring. Just beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
I was disappointed in that match. And the reason is because those are like the two guys I wanted to win the Yusho. It was one of those two guys. If one of those two guys won, I was going to be happy. Yeah. But those two guys, that match should not have gone the way that match went. There is no good reason that Koto Sakura, with his style and his size, should have sort of given up on a real fight so quickly and tried instead to pull a throw that wasn't there. Which is something that I think is really like endemic in sumo today, where you don't have a lot of people that are just willing to, well, in the same way as you did in the 80s, for example, people who are just willing to like square the fuck up and go 4 hands on the belt and just like struggle back and forth for as long as you can struggle until you either get a win or you set up yourself into a better position or whatever it is. Like we used to see back in the day, where it would just be those like Koto Kaze and Hokutenyu just fucking like muscling each other around the dojo for a minute until somebody runs out of gas. That's what we should be seeing out of these humongous dudes, especially when Onosato's grabbing belts nowadays. Kotozakura wants to grab belts. Like, why do you feel that if you fuck up your tachi-ai or don't get your ideal stance from the tachi-ai, that means it's all or nothing on your next move? I miss Kiseno Sato type guys who would fight for as long as they needed to get their preferred stance and resist for as long as they could to get their preferred stance, and then win from there rather than just like, oh, I borked it on the tachi-ai. I better, go for some crazy throw and then lose. I mean, that happens a lot nowadays at all levels of the top division, and I don't like it. The fight that we were given that I wanted that was sort of in that vein. What was it? We got it a couple of days later. It was, I think it was a Tommy Fuji and Takayasu when they fought a little bit after that. That was what I was looking for. That was the type of fight I want to see between my Ozeki and my almost Ozeki, that are huge and big and burly and just like, because it's an energy that's missing in sumo. A lot of sumo happens in those situations, and we just don't get to see it as much anymore. So yeah, I was disappointed in how short that one was. I was disappointed in Kotozakura for looking a little cowardly, in my opinion. I was glad Onosato won, but like it was too easy. Like, again, there are moments where you feel like one Rikishi really won, and then there are moments where you feel like the other Rikishi really lost. And this was more to me of like Kotozakura really fucked that one up when he didn't have to do that. He wasn't cooked, but he decided to act like he was cooked. And as a result, he got cooked. Like, I don't know.
And one of the things that I was going to say about this bout is that, Onosato just had really good, like, fundamental sumo. He's using a lot of the stuff that we saw him use in his amateur days, and he's using that to beat guys like Kotozakura. So I've seen that from some of the other newer guys too, and I think you're right. A lot of these other dudes are trying to like pull off some crazy shit when they don't get exactly what they want, while these newer kids are just like, this is what you do when you do sumo, Yeah. So. Going into day 7 now.
So day 7, Wakamoto Haru is Kyujo due to the toe injury, but we might see him come back. Kirishima is Kyujo with a spine injury, and he will lose his Ozeki rank. But if he gets 10 wins next tournament, then, you never know.
He might get back.
Can he do it? Is the question. Do you think he can do it?
I kind of feel like probably not, actually.
Oh, I hope he can. I hope his neck heals up, and doesn't just keep plaguing him.
Yeah.
I hope he can, but he's looked so bad. He's looked so especially bad in the last 2 tournaments that unless he fully heals and gets his shit together in a major way, like he has to go back to what he was in January, because I just don't know like what that was. And that's a shame. Like the idea that Mitakeumi would have held his or that Kirishima would have held his Ozeki rank for like fewer tournaments than Shodai is crazy. I mean, it just does not seem right in my mind. Especially since Kirishima was one of 2 wrestlers to win 2 Yusho last year, and one of very few wrestlers to win 2 Yusho in a single year in the last several years, something that we just don't see anymore, which was so like sort of, optimistic for the sport. And now to think that he might never get Ozeki back or whatever. I mean, I'd like him to do it. Takakeisho did it once. Takakeisho actually, when he got Ozeki, was Kyujo, I think, immediately afterward, and then lost it instantly and then got it back at Ozeki Wake. But this feels different. I don't know. This feels...
Yeah.
I'm worried. I'm worried and I'm disappointed. And it's sad. Like, huge bright future into super questionable, tumultuous future very, very quickly. It's the nature of sumo.
Yeah, I think that's kind of what was his name?
What does my mom say? Hope for the best, prepare for the worst.
I think that's kind of what Koto Kaze was saying in that Hochi Sports comment that he made about, why don't we give these guys a little slack, It's like all of them are dropping like flies because they keep getting injured, but you know how the JSA is.
Yeah. It's interesting that that's his perspective on that, because Koto Kaze is memorable for a lot of things, but one of them is that he really was an example of an Ozeki who pretty much as soon as he got hurt, he called it quits. Like, he was doing great Ozeki level performances and scores, and he got hurt pretty much one time and was like, well, it's my duty to retire. I mean, he hadn't even lost the rank yet, I don't think. He just was like, it's going to happen, so I've got to go. He was not one of those guys who tried to kind of prolong and Kyujo and back and Kyujo and back and drag it out for a really long time, or a guy who lost Ozeki and then fought on for many years later, like Konishiki and the original Kirishima. He just was like, and that's how they say it used to be. I don't know how true that is, but they say like Goeido was in that position. Goeido was going to lose Ozeki in January 2020, but he finished out the tournament anyway and then retired right after because it was like his duty or whatever, which I appreciate and respect. So it's nice to know that Kotokaze, despite his own kind of like pride in that, is advocating for more leeway for the injured wrestlers, even though he didn't really give himself any leeway as a competitor. I don't know. It shows that he's
could have been like a personal regret. It's like, man, I wish I just didn't retire right then. If they just would have let me rest, I could have come back and kicked some ass. So yeah, it might just be like reflection.
Yeah.
Well, we're going into day 7 now.
Mitoryu loses his fight with Takara Fuji by an inadvertent collapse. Koshi Kudake. Unfortunately, when Mitoryu tried to Nodowa Takara Fuji, aside from a lack of target, he collapsed on top of Mitoryu and they landed in a very precarious human centipede position.
Toss mass, eat ass!
That one definitely made the meme rounds.
That's the sumo punk's motto, like, played out in real life.
One of the notable bouts from day 7 was Atami Fuji versus Ono Sato. The first meeting of these two. Oh man, this was so close. It made my butthole pucker. So my son, Atami Fuji, had pushed my nephew, Ono Sato, to the bells really quickly. Ono Sato held on for dear life. My nephew does the tiniest pivot at the edge, but that's all he needed. As Ono Sato escaped, both men lost their footing, which Ono Sato took advantage of with his underhand grip on the belt, and my son, Atami Fuji, hit the clay first. Shitate Dashinage win for my nephew, Ono Sato.
There's a kooky one.
I've been keeping track of who all is your son and who all is your nephew.
Okay, Atami Fuji and Hakuoho are my sons.
Okay.
But then, like, Ono Sato's my nephew because I can't have all the sons.
Okay, fair enough.
Oh, it was just a weird one. Like, it was not a convincing looking win. To call it, it's one of those things where you can say, like, yeah, you can call it a Dashinage, but Ono Sato was not in that moment thinking, I'm going to execute a Dashinage. He was thinking, oh shit, oh fuck, oh god. And he managed to get away with a hand that happened to be on the belt, causing Atami to fall. And maybe it was like, maybe he did a movement in that moment that facilitated that with his arm on the belt, but it was really more of an escape. I was getting nervous at that point, which leads to, I think, I don't know if it was the next day or the day after, but there were like 2 days in a row or so where Ono Sato was not attacking at full force. He was kind of, escaping or dodging. Yeah, who did he juke? He juked somebody else, which is probably coming up for a win. And he beat Atami Fuji very narrowly at the edge. And I was seeing that, and I was worried because when we get to the Hirata Umi fight, I actually thought the night before, I don't like the pattern Ono Sato's got going on of not kind of going full steam ahead. And Hirata Umi is a wrestler where you've got to give him all because he's going to give you all. And of course that, I'm getting ahead of you guys, but that led to one of his 3 losses for the tournament. However, he corrected really well after that, which is what matters the most.
Oh, hell yeah. I don't know. It's like sometimes the officials will call a Kimarite, but sometimes it almost looks just like someone had a slippy Atoshi, but they'll still say it was a Hitaka Komi,
Yeah.
Sometimes I feel like they'll just assign a Kimarite just to assign a Kimarite.
Oh, they do. And sometimes there's a lot going into one. Like today I watched an Akinoshima match from the 90s where he does he goes for a Kubinage position, and then he does a Kawazugake like leg ankle hook. And then he uses that ankle hook to like lift the leg like a kakenage while still pulling down on the head with a kubinage. And all these 3 kimarite conjoined into one beautiful like finishing move. And then at the end of the day, it was just called kubinage. And I'm like, that's true. But also there was so much like more to it that if you could add footnotes in the Sumo DB, people would realize how cool Akinoshima was. But oh well.
Ura versus Kotozakura. Ura was up to his usual tricks, using his bendy body and wild style to unbalance the Ozeki. Both dudes locked up at the Tawara, but then Kotozakura begins to drive. Ura loses his torqued hold on the larger guy and attempted a pull down, but it was ill-timed. And Kotozakura used the opportunity to attack and pushed Ura out, giving him his first loss of the Natsubasho.
See? That's what I said. Koto Sakura, one of his strengths is that most of the time, he's a patient wrestler. When he's an impatient wrestler, he loses. But most of the time, he's a patient wrestler, and he's one of the better big guys at sort of waiting for his moment. And this is like the Mitakeumi situation, except I think Koto Sakura might have been in a worse position from the beginning. But he knew to wait because Ura was going to have to go backwards because Ura did not have the strength to go forward, even in his good position. And he waited for Ura to do something, and then he took advantage of that. Was ready for it, and he won the match, which Mitakeumi instead just sort of waited for it to happen and fell for it, because Ura eventually will fight the guys who know his tricks and know what he's going to go for and have the patience and the stamina to deal with it.
So we will move on to day 8, the Nakabi. So on Nakabi, I wanted to take a quick peek at Juryo. So day 8 had the Eastern Europe beatdown. It was awesome to see Shishi and Aoyama meet for the first time. If Big Dan wasn't so injured, I'm sure he would have shown Shishi a wilder time, but the younger Ukrainian defeated the larger Bulgarian with an Oshidashi.
Nice.
And then we have the first notable bout of day 8 I took notes for was Ryuden versus Takara Fuji. Despite how you feel about these two Rikishi, they both fought relentlessly. Both men are skilled wrestlers with plenty of tricks up their sleeves. Well, Mawashis. As they lock up near the Tawara, Takara Fuji starts to get the better of Ryuden, so the dastardly villain goes for a Kakanage and tilts Takara Fuji's leg with his own, and poor Takara Fuji did a full vertical split before falling off the dohyo.
Yeah.
Poor guy landed on his head. The Gunbai was pointed to Ryuden, but a Monowi was called. Buden's toe had gone out before Takara Fuji, so the decision was reversed. Gunbai Sachi Chigae, Takara Fuji's victory.
Nice. Always like seeing Ryuden lose.
All right, then we had Daisho versus Onosato. So my nephew baited Daisho from the start. He let the Oshi specialist unleash a few blows, and as Daisho charged forward, ready to deliver a flurry of Supari, my nephew grabs the back of his head and swings him out of the ring, spinning around in the ring from the momentum. Kind of had like a little ballet flourish there at the end. And then the last notable bout I did for day 8 was Hoshoryu versus Ura. So the Pinky Cheeseburger Boy tried similar tactics that won some of his previous bouts, but these were not effective against Haas. Haas seized control and ran Ura out of the ring, while the pink one had tried a last-minute Totari armbar or Uchari at the edge. Who knows what he was trying to do? He was trying to do something. But it was a Yori Taoshi win for Hoshoryu.
Yeah, again, the people like Hoshoryu definitely have figured Ura out.
Yeah.
I mean, Ura has lots of fans because, like I said, he at least has one time a tournament with a highlight. But there's also a lot of Ura matches that are just like, which is Tobizaru is the same way, except Tobizaru is more shamelessly trying to just move out of the way a lot of the time and just smack people down and trip them up. And it's sort of acceptable because Tobizaru presents as a clown. Ura I like, but I do think that people remember him for the great moments, and I do think that the less interesting moments probably outweigh the great moments, or at least not outweigh, outnumber. They don't outweigh, but they outnumber. So yeah, we love it when Ura wins, but when Ura loses, which is often, it's often very uneventful.
Yeah, that is true. But when he pulls off his weird shit, it's cool to see his weird shit.
Mm-hmm.
Well, speaking of Ura's weird shit, let's go ahead and go into day 9. A lot of Henkas for day 9. Oshoma, Mitakeumi, those were some of the notable ones. But the first notable bout we have is Takanosho versus Ura. Do you want to go ahead and tell us about this one?
Sure. After a decent tachiai by both combatants, there was an exchange of Supari. The knob dog drove Ura to the bales, and the pink one went for a Totari or Uchari, but he grabbed nothing but air and fell back and out of the dohyo. You could have won that, Ura. What the hell?
Yeah.
All right, the next notable bout, Hirata Umi versus Onosato. So, Hirata Umi may be a smaller Rikishi, but he fights like he's a giant. In this bout, it was Harada Umi's speed that helped him win the battle. He didn't give Onosato any time to strategize, formulate, or set up any techniques. He canceled out everything Onosato was trying to cook up and relentlessly attacked until Onosato was out of the ring. Oshidashi win for Harada Umi.
And that was one of only 3 losses that Onosato had this Basho.
I just think Harada Umi just exploded out just too fast for him to really kind of like do anything, and then just like before he knew it, he was already out. You know?
Yeah. No, see, this is why I like Harada Umi.
Last notable bout of day 9, Hoshoryu versus Takayasu. So Papa Bear had been gone since day 3 and returns on day 9. Hoshoryu and Takayasu stare daggers at each other before the bout begins. A tense and notable Niri Miai.
Nirai Miai.
Yeah, Niri Miai. That's like a new Japanese vocabulary word I learned. So I was just like, I had to put that in there. I didn't know there was a word for a stare down like that. So I was like, yeah, that's badass. So Takayasu wasn't shook. He took a deep left upper body grip on Haas and throws him like a sack of potatoes in a dominant display of technique. Sukui Nage win for the fuzzy one.
Yeah, I love that this is one of the most consistent things about sumo in this chaotic time, is that Hoshoryu will stare Takayasu's hands to the ground. He will just glare at the man until he puts his hands down first. He's done this for their last 3 meetings. And then every time after Takayasu puts his hands down, Hoshoryu will spectacularly lose. He will get his ass beat so badly by this man who is in a one-on-one just better than the guy. Like, that's the thing. People don't, I've said for a long time that Takayasu, when he's in good shape, which is never, is one of the most skilled, well-rounded, strong, aggressive, and intense fighters that we have in sumo, even though his rank no longer reflects that. Because of his bad back, which has caused him to lose in certain easy ways. But Takayasu has, I believe, of any active wrestler, including Teruno Fuji, the most wins to his name by Uwate Nage. Takayasu's Uwate Nage is fucking deadly and dangerous. It beat Hoshoryu like two meetups ago, and it beat several people, Uwate Nage and Uwate Dashi Nage, this tournament, even post-injury. And he's just like really competent on the belt. People remember him as this really aggressive pusher, and he has a huge tachiai and does push aggressively. But because his like key weakness these days is that he gets turned around really easy, presumably because he can't twist his back and hold his back in place the way he used to. I think Takayasu is way more dangerous when you're locked up with him, because even against the guys that we think of as like, oh, what a great, strong, like our top belt fighters, Kotozakura, Hoshoryu, even against those guys, if Takayasu gets his hands on the motherfuckers, they go down. Like, they go down, and that's consistent.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, I don't know. People need to just... Well, number one, Hoshoryu needs to understand what he's dealing with, because he's embarrassing himself with this shit. Like, if you're gonna lose, at least, like, humble yourself and, like, put your fucking hands down and just be ready. The theatrics beforehand to then just get beat is one of the reasons that I, am not as big a cheerleader for Hoshoryu as I should be or could be. I am a fan of his. I'm a supporter of his, but I don't like jump out and yell for him because he does this type of bullshit. And this type of bullshit I just don't like. I don't like unless you've, and like I would say unless you've earned it, but really it's not, it's antithetical to sumo. Nobody's earned it. Even Asa Shoryu didn't earn it, and he did this type of shit a lot. He was all about mean mugging people, and he was amazing. But like, it's not what you're there for. It's not the point.
Exactly.
So I don't know. Either way, it's funny. I'm here for it to continue. Do you remember last time Takayasu got him with, I don't even remember the name of the move. Is it Komata Sukui, or am I mixing that up? Where he picked up his leg and dropped him backwards over his knee.
That was pretty bad.
And then before that, he Uwate Naged him into the ground. And all of those times, they were preceded by this fucking stare thing. Like, it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. And people online tried to tell me, like, oh, like, if I'd had fucking 6 days of rest, I probably would look pretty good against Hoshoryu too. And I'm like, that is the most backwards, like, cope I've ever heard. He didn't have 6 days of rest because he just was feeling. His back is fucked up and he's an old man. Hoshoryu got beat by an old man with a bad back. Like, come on. Like,
I mean,
and it's not the first time either. The last time they fought, or the time before that, he beat him on day 15 of a full tournament that he fought. So, like, it's not like it's a rest issue. It's not like it's a stamina issue. It's just, I don't know.
I feel you. I know exactly what you're saying. It's just that for somehow, some way, Takayasu just knows how to just like worm his psyche like deep into Hoshoryu's brain, just to just juke him deep inside his brain, just beats him. And not only just like, through superior skill, and battle experience, but I really do think somehow Takayasu just is like, getting under Hoshoryu's skin somehow.
Yeah, and the Takayasu stare in that like stare down, Hoshoryu was like, the whole time, and Takayasu was just sitting there. He looks sort of like disinterested, half asleep, and in that moment who's got it. Like you can tell.
All right, so we are moving to day 10. On day 10, it was good to see Takeda Fuji back in good form. He earned his Kachikoshi off knocking around poor Ichi Yamamoto, but, it was good to see him, get that Kachikoshi.
Hell yeah.
And then Tommy Fuji versus Tobizaru. Now, this was goddamn ridiculous. Poor Tommy Fuji was trying his best to wrangle the greased-up pig that's the flying monkey, and he was getting pretty frazzled. Tobizaru was doing all sorts of monkey mischief, trying to sweep the leg, Cobra Kai style, that weird pulling technique at the Tachiai, and just generally trying to keep his distance. That last sweep attempt pissed off Tommy Fuji, and he charged the flying monkey, pushing his ass off the dohyo and into the crowd, an animated bout if there ever was one. That's one of the bouts that should have yakety sax playing.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. A classic edit.
I'm going to have to throw that together. All right. Takayasu versus Kotozakura. This was a clash of former Ozeki versus current Ozeki. You could literally see sparks flying as they clashed. Their auras flared as they battled. They fought for a throwing angle. They attempted to outmuscle each other. But Takayasu went Super Saiyan and Watanage'd Kotozakura down on top of the bales. The power generated in this bout was palpable. It was really cool because you could literally feel the strength of their movements, like even just watching it. It was badass.
That's what I crave. It's what I miss. And you can see that. I was like, Takayasu's got that overarm grip, man. It's going to go down. And it did.
Seriously, the deadliest Uwatanage. And whenever you were talking about Takayasu's Uwatanage, that actually made me remember the first time that I ever attempted, to do an Uwatanage. It was actually after watching Takayasu do it. I was like, so I just rewound it over and over again. Like, so that's how he's doing it. So I tried it in Keiko, and I think I took Corey by surprise because I, threw him, and I was like, oh shit, are you all right? But that was the first time I tried it, and it was cool. It was just like, woo, he caught air. So no, Takayasu's Uwatanage was legendary enough to inspire me to try it for the first time.
It's a great move, and there's so many good legendary wrestlers who have made it kind of their own. There's a really low-res digest video on Kaio doing it, and Kaio's right hand outside is like the stuff of legend. But it's so crazy to see because Kaio would not hesitate with that shit. I mean, as soon as he got it, it would be the biggest, craziest fucking just like heaves, and it would be against the largest and the scariest enemies in the world. He took out Asashoryu, Takanohana, Akebono, Musashi Maru, all of these guys with that thing at least a time or two in the career. And it's just beautiful to behold. So I love anybody who they know that that's their move and they can really get it. Yeah, absolutely. Takayasu is like that guy. I looked it up and he's got 68 career Uwatenage to his name, which is a lot. Teruno Fuji has 50 right now. Wow. And there might be other guys with similar high numbers, but I'm not really sure who's been around long enough and belt fights enough successfully to know who it might be.
Yeah, that's honestly, it's one of my favorite moves to see, and if I could pull it off and about, it's one of my favorite moves to do.
I think it's everyone's favorite move. Why do you think fucking Scott Finley says it at the end of every episode?
Because it's fun to say.
World of Sumo.
What's it again?
And the guy who I think has maybe the greatest career percentage of Uwatenage of anyone in history is Koto Nowaka's dad. Or Kotozakura's dad, the first Koto Nowaka. Because I'm pretty sure that, he had over 100, which so did Hakuho and Kaio. He might have had less in number than Hakuho, but you've got to understand, Koto Nowaka had probably half as many career wins as Hakuho, if not less than that. So, it was a huge, it might have been his number one. No, it was his second biggest winning technique after, of course, Yori Kiri with 135 in his career. It was like really, if I mean, he wasn't exactly a one-trick pony, but when he got it, he was going to use it. And I like to see it. And I saw a little bit of that in Kotozakura this time around, where he would get those deep kind of around the back outside grips and then move quickly to kind of maneuver people out. It wasn't as much an Uwate Nage, but it was definitely utilizing the same over-the-back Uwate position that his dad would use, which was neat to see. I like those, you know, pass-down type of technique things.
Yeah, it's a legacy technique.
Well, speaking of how cool Takayasu is, let's go ahead and get into day 11.
All right, so we have Atami Fuji versus Takayasu. This was a colossal display of strength and grappling skill. Takayasu masterfully controlled the flow of the bout before choosing his moment to fully charge the younger Rikishi out. Atami Fuji attempted a slapdown as a last-ditch effort, but he only unbalanced Takayasu after stepping out of the ring himself. A crushing Yori Taoshi victory for Takayasu. And another notable bout that happened on day 12 that I'm not going to go into bloody detail about, but I will just say that Hoshoryu beat my nephew Onosato with the Shitata Nage again.
Boo. I mean, it'll happen. It'll keep happening. It's beautiful and cool when it happens. Obviously, it makes the Hoshoryu fans, go crazy, which it should because it's cool and it's his thing. But, like, I just, like, hey, come on, Onosato. Like, if you pay attention, you ought to know that that's what he's going to go for. And it may be harder to deal with it than just knowing that it's going to happen. But he really didn't. He was not in the ring for long. So
yeah. So day 12. How the hell is Shonan the Barbarian the sole leader on day 12?
Shonanumi?
Shonanumi. That's pretty wild, but not unheard of, I guess. But can he hold the lead?
No.
Spoiler alert, no.
No, wasn't Shonan... Oh, no, it wasn't Shonanaumi. It was Churanaumi.
Churanaumi
that Noah had predicted would get a Zinsho Yusho.
I was close. What did he get? I don't even remember. I forgot he was in the tournament.
We'll get to that. We'll get to that.
All right, so taking a quick peek at Juryo, they ended day 12 with all three dudes on the leaderboard with an 11-1 score. Said dudes are Endo, who looked like he was enjoying fighting the younger guys, Wakataka Kage, who was on a brutal rampage this basho, and newcomer Onokatsu, who has come rampaging into Juryo and clawing his way to the top division with the quickness. So the first notable bout that we had at day 12, Battle of the Umis, Sadana Umi versus Churana Umi.
Oh, speak of the devil.
These guys have fought 6 times in the past, and Churana Umi won all 6. Radana Umi ain't going out like that, though. This was a brutal, high-speed chess match with both combatants attacking and defending a plethora of techniques. In the end, Sadana Umi whipped Churana Umi to the ground for an Watanage win. The skill and agility on display was just magnificent. That was a really fun bout to watch. I rewound it like 4 or 5 times, just trying to see if I could discern all the moves, which...
Yeah. Sadana Umi is another one of those guys that, despite being a rank and file Makuuchi guy, I don't know, I just like him.
Yeah, I did too.
He's neat.
my homie Rob, RB, Rob, however you address him, the metalhead guy that comes to, yeah. So, like, that's like his guy. That's like his favorite guy. He is
Sadana Umi. Yeah,
he is a Sadana Umi stan.
Sadana Umi turned like 37 during the tournament or something. I mean, he's like really old now. And he's got a sort of a classic sumo build in that he's kind of a Koto Eko figure for me, where he's not very huge, but he just like has enough aggression and power and is good at getting his kind of double inside, like just chugging preference that he can show that even with a smaller frame, you can hang around in the modern era. And I like him. He's also the son of the Sadana Umi from the 80s. So if you ever watch old matches and you see another Sadana Umi, that's this Sadana Umi's dad, who was like probably a career Maegashira. Maybe he hit Komusubi or something. I'm not sure. But he's cool. It's nice to see that.
I do like seeing that. And it's cool to see like how some of the names are, the legacies, kind of passing down. I don't know. The sumo history is a lot deeper and richer.
Yeah.
All right. Oh, and another kind of weird note that I had for day 12. Did anybody else see the glitch in the Matrix with Harada Umi and Gonoyama? It was like Harada Umi baited him with the powerful Tachiai, and then a pull-down attempt, causing Big G to stumble while chasing after the smaller Rikishi. An attempt to regain his balance at the Tawara, Gonoyama just kind of froze, in just kind of like a precarious pose, which of course invited Harada Umi to thrust him out, and Oshidashi win for Harada Umi, but it just looked like he was malfunctioning for a second, like Gonoyama's just like gzz, 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 until Harada Umi thrust him out.
Yeah, that was weird. Well, I'm going to go ahead and take us into day 13 now. First, I have Meisei versus Abi. Abi starts with his trademark Supari to the face. Meisei pushes back, gaining a little space, grabs Abi's right arm, and starts yanking him forward like a gas lawnmower cord. But Abi slips out and resumes his barrage of Supari. So Meisei grabs Abi's belt, while Abi gains a grip on the back of his belt. Meisei starts forcing Abi to the bales, and at the very last moment, Abi spins to the left, pushing Meisei down and out. This was not the sloppy footwork we've previously seen from him. This is the kind of stuff that kept him in the Yusho race this tournament. I remember I used to lament the kind of footwork that Abi had, because his style is still very similar to what it was like a year or two ago. But his footwork, I've noticed, has gotten a lot better.
He doesn't automatically do, like, if his initial thrusts don't work, he doesn't do that automatic pull technique, the push me, pull me style. He doesn't do it as often. But his footwork has gotten a lot better. It's not just, like, all over the place. He's not crazy legs.
I mean, Abi's dastardly. I don't know. He's hard to like, I think, and his style can be hard to like because there are days where he's guns blazing and the power pushes through and he knocks people out and he looks really good. But there are a lot more days, I think, where he gives up on the power very quickly and then tries to do things that feel ill-planned and often ill-practiced. And a lot of his wins seem like good luck more than strong skill, where he just happens to move at the right time, or he grabs the back of someone's belt as he's moving away and sort of guides them out with his sort of dodging. I would much rather see a Rikishi who goes full force with the thrusts, and if the thrust doesn't work, has a game plan to move to the belt. That was Abi's stable master. Terral wouldn't just like panic and run away like Tohakuryu as soon as he didn't get, his opponent moving backwards, which is 100% what Abi does. And it's embarrassing for a guy that's as big as Abi. Abi's like 370 and like 6'2 or 6'3. He's got a crazy long reach. Yeah. And the fact that more often than not, it feels we see him retreating like a fool around the ring rather than trying to find something that he can square up and do in a sensible way. It makes it a little hard for me to root for him. And I was kind of an Abi fan when he was making his comeback because he was way more like power at that time.
More focused.
Yeah. And nowadays he just seems to exist to do things that frustrate people who are fans of Rikishi that have more at stake. Like we'll talk about presumably on day 14 versus Kotozakura, where it's just like, cool. Abi's not going to win this Yusho, even though mathematically he could. If he did win this Yusho, it wouldn't mean anything because he's not going to become an Ozeki, even though he would mathematically start an Ozeki run. All that this means is that Kotozakura, who actually has a chance at becoming a Yokozuna and could make meaningful progress towards that goal, is now going to get fucked up because Abi pulled his ass, because Abi pulls people. That's what Abi does. Go away. I don't know.
So Abi's more of like a heel these days.
Totally.
Yeah, just destroying people's dreams. We're going to go now to Shona Naomi versus Kotozakura. Shona Naomi, a Rikishi I admittedly ignore quite frequently, was sharing the top of the leaderboard with 3 other dudes, including Ozeki Kotozakura, going into day 13. But with cold indifference, like an assassin, Kotozakura loaded a Hinka into his rifle and aimed it directly at Shona Naomi's hopes and dreams. Shona Naomi went tumbling off the side of the dohyo before he even knew what hit him. And he looked so pissed about it. But don't worry, Shona Naomi will be avenged.
Yeah. That was weird. I don't know. I don't feel like we have a history of Kotozakura doing that. But if he's like the other wrestlers that I like, people who dislike him will bring this up until the end of time, even if it's the first and only time he ever does it. And then they'll completely ignore all the times that other people that they do like do it, like Wakataka Kage for a certain Juryo Yu show yesterday.
I don't think that as many people are going to do it, though, because there aren't as many Shonanumi fans.
That's true. That's true. People often forget about him like you do. And I like Shonan Umi. I want him to be better than he is because he's gigantic. And I kind of like, well, my vision for the future of sumo having a bunch of giants in the top ranks again kind of got dashed when Hokuseiho got kicked out. But we still have Shonan Umi, and we still have Onosato, and we still have Kinbozan, and maybe one day we'll get Shishi up there. And these are all guys that are like 6'4" and like 400, so they're really big on a level that we don't see very often. And it would be cool to have them all battle each other out round robin style at the end of the tournament. But I don't know if that future is going to happen because I don't think Shonan Umi or Kinbozan are quite that skilled, despite their large sizes. I don't see. I mean, Shishi's too young to make any kind of bold claims about his future like that. So Onosato hopefully will get one big ass Yokozuna here in the near future. But other than that, I don't know. I was glad to see Shonan Umi kind of do okay, but he sort of dropped the ball at the end, and you could tell he was upset with himself. Like his loss on day 15, he was very like, man.
Yeah.
And it's hard to see, but like it is what it is.
Well, let's go ahead and go into day 14 now. First notable bout we have is Nishikigi versus Nishiki Fuji. Just when I think I've got the dead body rule figured out, there's a bout like this. Nishikigi is pushing out Nishiki Fuji at the same time Nishiki Fuji tries to thrust Nishikigi down. Now, I noticed that both of Nishiki Fuji's feet were technically outside the ring as he was flying through the air, which had been explained to me in previous controversial bouts as being in an unrecoverable position, therefore meaning a loss. People have said that being horizontal in the air also puts you in an unrecoverable position, which I'm not quite as sure about since I've seen Ura win a lot from just eating himself like that. Regardless, it also appeared to me that Nishiki Fuji's foot may have hit the ground just a split second before Nishikigi's hand did. It may have been a little difficult to tell at the time, though, and that appears to be what they base the Torinaoshi on. It's like, why even have a dead body rule if that's what you're going to do? Apparently, Abima really shit the bed by playing a damn commercial during the rematch, but NHK had our back, and it resulted in a win for Nishiki Fuji despite Nishikigi's attempt at an Uchari.
Yeah, that was.
I really don't remember that match at all.
Sabrina was rewinding it like 5 or 6 times, and like I was trying to do. I can't. I think I was trying to edit a video or do something, but she's screaming. I was like, "What the fuck is this shit?" It's like she rewound it, and she's like, we're both like staring at the TV. She's like, "Look at his foot, Lanford. Look at his foot." It's like that should. It's just like this should have even been a Torino. She was mad.
It's just I've seen it go different ways in other very similar bouts so many different times, and it just doesn't make sense to me. But
we just need like a live-in JSA guy, just a live-in chimpanzee. Like, oh no, that's dead body rule. Oh no, that's not dead body rule.
Yeah, just have him sleep on the couch.
Yep.
We're gonna go down to Atami Fuji versus Ura. Ura is able to get a right inside grip on Atami Fuji's belt, but Atami Fuji locks up his arm and starts trying to lift him up and drive him forward. He gets Ura to the edge just when Ura is able to gain a left inside grip. Atami Fuji starts humping Ura with all his might, but the precious Pinko mightily resists until Atami Fuji finally has to push him down sideways by his face.
It's funny as you keep calling the hug and chug just humping.
That's what it is.
It's the hug and chug.
It's humping.
Gaburi Yori.
People only call it other things because they don't want to admit what it actually looks like. It's true.
It's belly bumping, not humping.
Whatever. You're moving your hips in that way.
Well, they're on top of your gut, though.
Yeah,
so
they're on top of you.
On top of the gut. God damn it. It's the hug and chug. It's the hug and chug.
It's humping. So, Abi versus Koto Sakura. You can always count on Abi to make a basho more interesting, usually with a strategically applied upset. I see you making that face, Noah.
Not pleased about it.
Kotozakura, being one of the leaders of the Yusho race, didn't mean shit to Abi. He gives the Ozeki his trademark flurry of Supari before grabbing his right arm to pull him out. But Kotozakura is able to brace himself against the bales and resist taking a tumble. But before he can regain his bearings, Abi grabs his face and starts thrusting. The Ozeki loses his balance just enough to step out of the ring, off the top rung of the Yusho ladder, leaving baby boy Onosato as the sole leader going into the Sinshuraku.
Boo! I mean, it's fine. Like, I don't begrudge Abi for that. He did what he had to do. It just, of course, it would be Abi is kind of the energy. And yeah, I don't know if it was Waka Nohana who commented that, the truth be told, I didn't think Kotozakura looked amazing this tournament. I thought for the last two, he has looked better in terms of his attack and his decisiveness and his aggression. Whereas this tournament, I felt like his Tachi timing was off. He'd stand up a little too high, and he kind of had to bring himself back from bad situations more than he has lately. And obviously, he was still getting a strong score that way, which is maybe a testament to the fact that he's quite good. But Waka Nohana, I think, said something to the effect of, like, yeah, because Kotozakura had not really been playing an offensive game for the whole tournament, when he tried to turn offense on against Abi kind of out of the blue at the end, he was not warmed up enough to be prepared for that arm pull, and he fell for it. Whereas had he been a little more loose and been more practiced in the lead up to the tournament, or to the day 14, then he would have probably been more ready for that pull and could have turned it around, which seems like a pretty astute observation. And shows kind of how like volatile sumo can be. But yeah, I mean, do what you got to do, Abi. Kotozakura, you pooped it on this one. And then that was the tournament. That ended up, essentially losing Kotozakura his shot at the title.
Exactly. Oh, well, speaking of the title, we're going to go ahead and go into day 15. Going into day 15, there are 4 different dudes praying for Onosato's demise, silently chanting curses in his direction. Those being Daieisho, Hoshoryu, Abi, and Kotozakura. The officials who decide the Torikumi wanted to see an Ozeki match, with the last 2 remaining Ozeki, so they put Hoshoryu and Kotozakura up against each other. If Onosato lost on this day, he would have a playoff with one of the Ozeki. However, they also matched him up with Abi, which means if he lost, there would be a 3-way playoff between Onosato, Abi, and one of the Ozeki. Before Makuuchi starts, we see our old homie Wakataka Kage win the Juryo Yusho, meaning we will very likely have 2 Waka Bros wreaking havoc on Makuuchi once again in July. Woo! Congratulations, Wakataka Kage.
Exciting. He looked really good this time around, and there were a lot of people. I was one of the people who said that he would have a really hard time on his way back up, and I don't think that he's out of the woods by any means. But there were also people on the internet, during his one loss early on that were like, oh, this ain't the same Wakataka Kage. But I think he pretty much became the same old Wakataka Kage right after that, because he was beating some of the heaviest guys in Juryo by Yorikiri. He was using those fast Dashinages to get wins, albeit his day 15 victory was kind of poo-poo. He was looking really like his old self against lower level competition in a way that I think was very reassuring. So I'll be very happy to see him return to Makuuchi next time. And I hope that he can return to a point where he's at the very least fighting the top guys. I don't know that he'll get back to that Sekiwake, almost Ozeki position that he was in. What was that just last year? In March?
22, 23?
It feels like it was so long ago, but maybe it was just last year.
It wasn't that long ago. I think you're right. It was just last year.
Yeah. That's crazy. A lot can change in a year, but I'd like to see him get up at least to the joy where he's dealing with all those guys, to see how he would fare against kind of our new group of people, because we've got Atami Fuji and Onosato and all these newer guys that weren't around. Takeru Fuji will presumably come back, and I don't know if he'll be in Juryo again, so he won't get to do Wakataka Kage right away.
Takeru Fuji? Yeah. I don't think he's going to be pushed all the way back down to Juryo. I think he's going to be like Maegashira 14 or something.
I don't know. An 0-15 is pretty aggressive, and I think he wasn't promoted as high as we sort of anticipated. I think
Was it-
what was
he
his
was
rank?
like
Megashira
a six?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know.
If they're
We'll
if they're
see.
merciful, maybe 17. If they're not merciful, maybe anywhere between Jirio 1 and 5, maybe.
Yeah. We'll see what happens with him. I do kind of have this weird feeling that he's gonna stay at like the lower Megashira.
Isegahama people do tend to get pretty lucky in the promotion bails.
Yeah. Yeah. Before we really get into the bouts on this day, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Matt to talk about what went on in some of the lower divisions.
So the Senshuraku was a day of playoffs. Playoffs. So the first one was the Jonakuchi playoff of Seihakuho versus Noda. But before we get too deep into that bout, I want to bring everyone's attention to the baby Gyoji. Everyone witnessed the baby Gyoji.
Yes.
His name is Shikimori Kazanosuke. He's 16 years old, but despite his age, he handled the bout like a seasoned pro, even ripping loose-hanging Sagari with a confident and practiced quickness.
Hell yeah.
Everyone that I know of that saw the playoff was just totally enamored with this little cute kid, you know, being a hardcore Gyoji.
He was wearing the green robes too, so immediately I thought Baby Yoda. So now, Noah, you're gonna have to draw a picture of like Baby Yoda and the baby Gyoji like holding hands, playing or something, you know, or maybe have them like in a sumo match.
Oh
Something
boy.
like that. It was adorable though.
He was pretty adorable, and just little baby face kid, just like, you know, you could say that, oh, he was pretending to be a big bad Gyoji. No, he's just starting to be a
He may
big
have
bad
been
Gyoji.
16, but he looked like he was 8.
All right, so Seihakuho versus Noda. So we're not going to take a very deep dive into the very obvious naming conventions of Miyagino Oyakata, but I'm very certain we all know whose Rikishi is his charge. So Noda is a young recruit with a fuzzy burr too short for his Anbara. He's from the Fujishima Heia with the likes of Bushozan and Fuji Seiyun. Word round the campfire is that this is their first proper basho, not counting Maizumo. So Seihakuho comes from a family of Bok champions, you know, Mongolian wrestling champions, and Noda is a former junior world sumo champion. So honestly, I thought this was a pretty high level bout. I was kind of impressed to see, you know, that the way that these kids were fighting.
Yeah.
The two young men seemed very evenly matched in strength, so it was skill and balance that decided this bout. Through a couple of standstills, feints, and counters, Noda eventually nails a Shitatsu Nage to throw Seihakuho down to the clay, clinching the Jonakuchi Yusho.
No, duh.
God damn it. It's funny, Sumo Mainichi kept calling him Nodo.
Oh, no.
It's Noda. The Sandanme playoff was between Sadano Hikari and Kyoku Kaiyu. These two Mongolian boys got into a fierce belt battle. It was the superior ring sense and strength that Kyoku Kaiyu beat Sadano Hikari with the Yori Taoshi, winning the Sandanme Yusho. So all of the lower division Yusho winners, other than, you know, the ones we just mentioned, Jonidan was won by Asa Azuma from Takasago Beya with the score of 7-0. So 7 wins, 0 losses. Makushita was won by Fuji Seiyun of Fujishima Beya. Again, another score, 7 wins, 0 losses. And Juryo was clinched by Wakataka Kage of Arashio Beya. 14 wins, 1 loss.
Damn.
And I did want to bring everyone's attention to Ono Katsu. So he's part of Onosho's stable, and
Ono Katsubeya.
it's supposed to be Omo. Dang it! It auto-corrected on me. It's not Ono Katsubeya. It's a stupid autocorrect.
I was gonna say I've never
It's
heard of that one
Onomatsu.
before.
Onomatsubeya. It's just that my stupid phone. I turned on my autocorrect again after leaving it off for some months, and now it just anything. It's like, oh, I don't know that word. I'm gonna change it to the closest word I thought it was. It's stupid. Your stupid phone. Hey, Swift Key, get your shit together. Anyway, so Onokatsu is from Onomatsubeya, which is, you know, Onosho's. In fact, the first time I saw Onokatsu, there was like a YouTuber or something that went to that stable.
Oh
And it showed Onokatsu with really short hair, and it looked like he was wearing like a high school letter jacket or something, and he's just kind of chilling. He speaks perfect English.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Have you noticed that stable's like Tachi calling card that he and Ono Show do?
What's
Where
that?
they both cross their arms at the Tachi before they start. Onokatsu does it and Ono Show does it, and it seems to be a thing for their stable. I don't know how many other people from their stable do it, but I noticed that this tournament, and I was like, oh, neat. That's either a sign of respect for his senior at the stable, or maybe it's just something they all do. But yeah, they do this double thing.
I'm gonna check that out. I never noticed that.
Yeah, I'm gonna check that out too.
But yeah, apparently he does speak perfect English, and he's very friendly and approachable, according to sumo superfan Sarah Loves Sumo.
Aw. We're going to go a little out of order and touch on the Ozeki fight first. Hoshoryu versus Kotozakura. They both go for belt grips, but the taller Kotozakura finds it easier to just lock up Hoshoryu's arm and fling him down with a Kotenage.
I was surprised by that because I felt like Hoshoryu's form had mostly gotten better as the tournament went on. And like I said, I felt Kotozakura looked off the whole time. And of course, Kotozakura and Hoshoryu's bout history, their like head-to-head is really hot and cold. It's wild. I mean, I think Kotozakura won their first 3, and then Hoshoryu got like 10 in a row, and now Kotozakura's gotten like 5 in a row. And so they're very back and forth, but I kind of thought Hoshoryu would have an edge. I was surprised to see Kotozakura. It was very smart what he did. He sort of felt Hoshoryu reaching for that left-hand grip, and he pivoted to a big Kotenage, which was just enough to beat Hoshoryu. I guess Hoshoryu wasn't quite ready for it. I wasn't ready for it either. I didn't think Kotozakura would go for that. I'm glad it worked because I root for Kotozakura over Hoshoryu in that matchup, and I like to see Kotozakura sort of slowly bringing their head-to-head back to even after such a lopsided history for a while. But I don't know. I thought Hoshoryu would get the better of him this time, and that brings Kotozakura up to 11 wins for the tournament, which is great. Hoshoryu to 10. Of course, as we know, that's the sort of mythical Ozeki standard for both of them was met. But in the absence of Yokozuna and other Ozeki, they really should have been winning the championship. And they did. And 10 wins in the absence of 2 Ozeki and 1 Yokozuna is not a great look. And neither really is 11 wins either. So they've got holes in their game that they really need to patch up before we get some of these new guys getting better and better and better and becoming too much of a problem. I kind of worry that it's pretty clear Takakeisho is already this type of figure, but it's obviously early to worry about this, but I'm a little worried with all the young hotness lately that Hoshoryu and Kotozakura might fall into that category that like Hokutenyu and Asashio did, where they had been Ozeki for like the majority of the 80s, but they sort of got passed by on the way up by Ono Kuni and Asahi Fuji and Hokutoumi and Futa Haguro, and these guys that came up and were young and hit them at a time where they had just sort of gotten, I don't know, they weren't quite in good shape enough anymore. And they were kept at bay by the Chiyono Fujis and the Takano Satos in the early part of the decade. And then by the time they maybe had a better chance, all these new dudes came up and they were a little bit more battered, and the new dudes proved to be kind of too much for them rather quickly and sort of lapped them. And I kind of wonder if we're going to see that same sort of thing with our current crop of Ozeki, because Kirishima's possibly lost it. We kind of all know at this point Takakeisho is not going to be a Yokozuna, and his career may be reaching its sort of twilight, at least his Ozeki career. I don't know. Hoshoryu and Kotozakura have a prime window, and they are not seizing the day. And it worries me a bit. So we'll see.
Yeah. Yep, that's very good points there.
And, honestly, like, I'm sitting here absorbing, what you've said and just kind of thinking about it. And, you might be right. Especially, seeing guys like Takeru Fuji, Onosato, maybe not Atami Fuji as hardcore these days. And we all know Hakuoho, is still, chilling in Juryo. But, if Hakuoho ends up coming, back up to Makuuchi, if Atami Fuji, ignites yet another fire inside him to do Sanyaku level sumo. And, of course, Onosato and Takeru Fuji, I think those guys really do have the potential to be, either in the Joy or in Sanyaku and kind of be mainstays in that area. If they keep improving and continue to learn, from some of these other guys. But I hate to admit it, but I do think that, even though they're the healthiest Ozeki at the moment, Kotozakura and Hoshoryu, I think they may be lapped, by the younger dogs. But we'll have to see. I mean, who knows? I mean, Hoshoryu's pretty adaptable.
I feel like we're going to have a better view of it by the end of the year.
I think you're right. Yeah.
Give these guys a little more time in Makuuchi. Let people kind of figure their shit out, and we'll just see what happens.
Yeah. By what do you call it? Is it Kyushu? By Kyushu, we'll figure it out.
Yeah. But let's go ahead and discuss the bout that everyone was waiting for: Onosato versus Abi. If Onosato lost this bout, that would mean a 3-way playoff. Abi comes in with his facial frenzy, only to be slapped away like buzzing flies. Onosato then gets under the lanky man's arms and simply drives him back and across the Tawara. In his third Makuuchi tournament, he wins the Yusho. His hair still isn't long enough for an Oicho yet, and he gains the Emperor's Cup. He's fighting back tears on the dohyo while accepting his prize money, but his father is letting them flow freely in the crowd. This Yusho win broke the record for fastest time between his debut and his Makuuchi Yusho win, only having competed in 7 total tournaments before gaining the Emperor's Cup. This beat the previously held record of 10 tournaments from debut to cup, previously won by Takeru Fuji in March of this year. Onosato also became the first Komusubi to win a Yusho during his first tournament at that rank since 1957. And he also became the first Rikishi in 25 years to win a special prize within his first 3 Makuuchi tournaments. Yay!
That's a lot of records and a lot of...
Yeah.
I was just thinking, it's like, man, the folks at Sumo DB and the people that, that know all of this stuff and keep up with all this stuff, that's a lot of history digging and cross-referencing to do. I was like, man, I don't think I could ever keep up with doing that.
Yeah. So for the special prize winners, we have Onosato, who won the Shokunsho Outstanding Performance Award. We have Oshoma, who took home the Kantosho Fighting Spirit Prize. And then Onosato, again, getting the Gidosho Technique Prize. All right, so Noah.
Yeah.
You made some predictions in the last episode that we did with you, the Bonzuke episode. I will now go through those predictions that you made and let you answer for your failures. The first prediction you made was that Onosato will continue to do well at Komusubi, and he will keep his rank. He did more than well at Komusubi, and will likely be promoted to Sekewake. What say you about this?
I feel like that was, I like to speak broadly, and I spoke broadly enough for that to be true, and I'm guessing I probably spoke broadly enough for several of the others of these to be true as well. I know how to cover my ass. And I also understand that, it's talking about absolutes in sumo is really goofy because it's like the most volatile sport ever. But yes, I firmly believed going into this that Onosato is not a fluke or a flash in the pan. I think that he is legit in his power and his form. And I think that he is savvy enough to understand where he needs to improve, and that we saw him testing things out while debuting with the hardest schedule he's had, beating the top people and winning the Yusho as a Komusubi, the meat grinder rank.
Yeah.
And also showing off a new right-hand inside grip that he hasn't used so far. I mean, there were so many things that were positive for him coming out of this tournament, and there were so many things positive for him that had been leading up to this tournament, where I didn't see as many glaring weaknesses, and I saw a lot of strengths. So, Onosato is living up to the hype in a way that I think few Rikishi do and have. And, of course, there's always time to fumble things from here, and there's always injuries that can strike and all these awful situations, but people, it seems, are really getting behind him, and that's good because I've been behind him since the start, because he's he's Kiseno Sato's student, and Kiseno Sato was the guy that got me into sumo. So I've got to be a fan. I've got to stand.
Oh, yeah.
Hell yeah. The next prediction you made was that Asanoyama will sit out a few days and then come back and get his Kachikoshi.
Did I say that completely? I didn't qualify that at all and say maybe he'll sit out and not come back.
It's possible you did put maybe on there. We'll have to go back.
I tend to throw a maybe here and there.
So
but yeah.
The way it was worded was you said he's either going to sit out a few days and then come back and get his Kachikoshi, and then you just never got to the or. So
well, yeah, obviously it was a more depressing reality. He got sillily injured again at the stupid. I hate the goddamn Jungyo, guys. I hate it. It doesn't benefit me obviously in any way, and it seems to just tear these freaking people up more. The number of like a week before the tournament Jungyo injuries that I've seen in my 5 years watching sumo is just like so maddening. Like, give the motherfuckers a break. They're gonna be at home training anyway. Why do they gotta haul ass across the country and pick up these whack injuries in these usually fake practice bouts? Like,
and
it
seems to be more common recently too.
I agree. It's weird. And I don't know why we feel that it's this necessary. I mean, I get that they want to promote the sport and they need to make money, but like, at what cost? I mean, don't you think that people like Asanoyama getting so grievously injured so much is bad for the sport? People as popular and as talented as him being unable to compete to their fullest because of things like this? Like, come on.
Exactly.
Give him a break.
Yeah.
Poor Asa.
So yeah, Asanoyama did end up dropping out of the tournament completely before it even started. You did predict that there would be no new Yokozuna runs. No new
Sadly
Yokozuna
true.
runs
It almost
started,
wasn't true.
Which is
Yeah.
correct. You also predicted that Teruno Fuji will not finish the tournament, which was also correct. He dropped out on day 2. You predicted Taka Keisho will not enter the tournament, which was...
And I think most of us forgot that he did, so that counts.
He did enter the tournament, but he dropped out on day 2 with Teruno Fuji.
Close.
You predicted a Tsurunoumi Zinsho Yusho. No,
Yeah, and he went 8 and 7, so that's partially correct. Okay,
Can you remember any bout by Tsurunoumi from the
not a single one.
Yeah, same.
I still, if you showed me if you showed me a picture of my family and one of the people in the picture was a Photoshop sumo wrestler, and you said which one of these people is Tsurunoumi, I could not with confidence tell you. I might say it was my grandma. I don't know.
Granny Tsurunoumi.
Could be. Well, I mean, were there any more?
Tsurunomima? I don't know. Yes, you had one last prediction. Takeru Fuji will let some people down, specifically that he won't get as many wins as last time.
Which is true.
He did decide to drop out of the tournament before it even started, so that is a disappointment, but it wasn't based on his performance.
If you look at it this way, though, he did get 0 wins.
Yes. He definitely let people down, but you're right. I thought he would fight and show that he's much more fallible than people seem to take him after his one basho in Makuuchi, but obviously that moment has not come yet. Presumably then that will come in July unless his injury is really, really, really bad, but that would be unfortunate. However, I think in July, like I said, I think he'll be back in Juryo. And so, maybe he'll just destroy Juryo again like he did before. Maybe the injury will cause sort of a lingering or a lasting change to the way that he does sumo, and he'll be one of those careers. Or maybe, we'll just find out that his game wasn't quite as solid all the way through. And, he certainly didn't get lucky. I mean, he did very well. But like I said, I think in our last episode,
on the injury that he has. So my guess is that he wants to be in like tip-top shape before he starts fighting again.
Yeah, which would be good. I just don't know with him yet. I like I said, it's very difficult to say anything about a wrestler after I've only paid attention to them for one tournament, even if in that one tournament they win the championship. Because when I started watching sumo, it was January 2020, and if I made radical assumptions about wrestlers, based on that, I would have thought Tokushoryu was the greatest sumo wrestler of all time. And he got, I think, 14-1 in that tournament, which is crazy. So from the same position as Takeru Fuji. And obviously we know how things went for him from there. And there are certainly key differences between Tokushoryu then and Takeru Fuji now. But again, I'm not getting ahead of myself with him. I need to see more. That's all I can say. And we did get a chance to see more this time. So hopefully next time.
Any last thoughts on this Basho, you guys?
It was, it wasn't the Basho I think people expected. It had some very high highs and some very low lows. Like losing Kirishima as an Ozeki this quickly is a damn shame. But Ono Sato sort of showing us that he's living up to his potential is awesome. And a lot of people, even in the sumo world now, are talking about that changing of the guard that people have been sort of longing for pretty much the entire time I've been a sumo fan. I mean, it's been like 5 years now since that era where Hakuho and Kakuryu were so frequently Kyujo that they might as well have been retired. And, even in the time when we had Teruno Fuji as a Yokozuna, when he was active, he was like oppressively dominant to the point that it was kind of boring. And so what we want to see, what I think everyone wants to see, is a period with multiple Yokozuna, multiple Ozeki, who are all competitive with each other to an extent. And we want to see high stakes Senshu Raku, Musubi no Ichiban Yokozuna battles again. I think that's when sumo is at its best. And it's been a long time. The last time we had one of those was March of 2020, the second tournament I ever watched live. And that's been a long time, gang. It's May of 2024. So hopefully this is a sign that we're moving in that direction. And last tournament is a sign that we're moving in that direction. But there's still a lot of other things that are shaky. And I don't know exactly how to feel about that. I still am waiting for that Kotozaka Ryusho. I really want that to happen for him. I think it will, but I think there was a lot of stuff that went wrong this time for him and Hoshoryu both that shouldn't have. So I don't know. Things for them to reflect on all.
Yeah, I did see some people, and because, you have those weirdo, I like to call them fair weather fans or maybe armchair Oyakata kind of fans, like in the Facebook groups, saying that this was the worst Basho that they had ever seen.
I don't know why people would say that. Okay.
I think it's just because some of the top dogs had dropped out.
But to me, that makes it more interesting.
That's what I was going to say is I do think that whenever there aren't, like whenever Teruno Fuji was the top dog that was just constantly dominating everyone, when Noah's had almost made it boring, but whenever all of these dominant figures are kind of gone, it's just anyone's game. And that anyone's game is what, kind of, makes me super excited.
Yeah. If we did have healthy Ozeki and a healthy Yokozuna, I'm sure Ono Sato wouldn't have won this Yusho.
Yeah, probably been Teruno Fuji.
And that's not knocking the skill that Ono Sato has, but I mean, it was more interesting to me because of the difference. It being a different Basho from what you usually see is what makes it more interesting. Yeah. I don't know how else to say it.
There was a lot.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
The energy of it did feel kind of weird, though.
I think we get fatigued by those when every Basho is different, which was happening for a while, where there was a new Yusho winner every month or every tournament of the year for the first time in a long time.
Yeah, that was.
But I think maybe because we're kind of now going back and forth between a little bit of stability that makes sense, like such and such, gets a Yusho and makes Ozeki, or this Ozeki gets another title, to this new person who might be the next sumo legend won the championship. That makes it more exciting again because we have to have that balance. I don't really want to go back to a time where because had Daisho or Abi won this thing, which was on the table yesterday, that would have been so meh. I mean, because that it doesn't really. If you're one of the people like me who is only interested in seeing the story of sumo further itself, that Daisho or Abi winning another Yusho is not likely going to further the story of sumo in any way, because you don't expect either of those people to ever get higher than their highest rank of Sekiwake. You don't expect either of those people to win a Yusho ever again. You didn't really expect them to win a Yusho then, but you just kind of know these people have sort of peaked, or they're at their peak in a way. and it's not going to give us any hints as to what's to come next in the story. And I think most of us just want to know what's coming next in the story. We want spoilers, and Ono Sato feels like a main character waiting to happen. So that's
Hell yeah. Well, I think that's the Natsu Basho. We can't wait until it happens again in July. Noah, where can people find you on the internet if they want to look you up?
You can find me on Instagram at my full legal name, which I'm going to give away to you now, in addition to my credit card number and my. My name is Noah Wellbrock Talley, all one word, NoahWellbrocktalley. And you can find me on Twitter, where I tweet old sumo matches and talk commentary. A lot of the stuff I said in this episode, I said in writing over the last 2 weeks, at Sumo Zeki. Like sumo and ozeki, but put together with only one O. It's a portmanteau. I'm clever. And then you can find me, I don't think, anywhere else relevant to this conversation. Please don't friend me on Facebook. I don't know you. Yeah, so I make art, cartoons and stuff over there. And I'm hoping to make a lot more cartoons this summer, because I currently have access to print and cut my own stickers at my house for the first time. Nice. So instead of selling things on Redbubble for $2 and making like 5 cents off of everything that I sell, which is like not a joke, I might be able to like sell them straight from me and then make an actual $2 when I sell a sticker for $2, which would be really cool. And I might need it because I'm going to take my cat to the vet in 2 days, and they're going to tell me that she needs some kind of probably hyper expensive medication or surgery to stop her from peeing blood. So if you love my cat, Barbara, listening audience, and you like sumo and you want to put wrestlers on your Stanley Cup, for Christ's sake, buy my shit.
Buy it. Noah Wellbrock Talley. He's got a Redbubble too. I see.
Save Barbara.
But yeah, send buy stickers and send good vibes to Barbara.
If you want to find us on the internet, well, we're all over that shit. You can go to the Facebooks or the Twitters or the Instagrams or whatever you want to do.
We're
YouTube.
at Sumo Punks with an X for extra sex, except for the Twitter, where we are Punk Sumo.
Yes.
And we have a Redbubble.
We do. We have a Redbubble shop, and we have a TeePublic shop where we sell T-shirts and stickers and mouse pads and
shower curtains
and
cell phone cases and whatever. There's stuff. There's all kinds of weird shit on there that you can get.
Yes.
Also, if you're listening to or watching this, whatever, on YouTube, you should like, subscribe, do all the crazy YouTube things.
Do all the shit that they literally always tell you to do when you're watching YouTube.
And like it, give it a little thumbs up. Oh, and find Kurowashi Sumo on YouTube too. We need more subscribers for Kurowashi Sumo, and then you can see me and Sabrina actually
doing sumo. I think that's all the things that. Oh. If you like this podcast, give it a 5-star rating on any podcast platform. It helps other people find it and enjoy it themselves. And until next time, bye.